Hey everyone, my name is Kevin Bird. I work for Problem Solvers Guild, and if you work for a manufacturing company that wants to improve speed and quality, please reach out at problemsolversguild.com. All right, today I am going to show you how to set up a dev container environment to run Fastai. So the idea of a dev container is that it allows you to set up a space to run um, basically on any hardware. You'll always know what your environment's going to look like inside of that container. If you've heard of a Docker container, a dev container is another layer of obfuscation outside of that. So a Docker container will live inside of your dev container. So a lot of what I'm going to go through today is from the Sparrow ML Sparrow patterns dev container, and that's because I've gotten a lot of value from this. So now I'm going to show you what this looks like in practice, and yeah, we're going to start by going back and reopening this folder locally, which you'll learn more about as we go through this. So what we're talking about today is dev containers, and you can see here we've got this folder. I'm in Windows right now, so this is a folder called .dev container. Inside of .dev container, we've got a .env file that's currently empty, and a devcontainer.json file, which is currently not empty. So if we look at the structure of the devcontainer.json file, you can see we've got a name of the dev container. What Docker file is going to be used to build this? This actually can even handle Docker Compose files, so you can really get fancy with your structure here. I'm just using a Docker file, which is similar to what Sparrow was using. Um, I'm specifying that I want to load into this dev container using user 1000. So this is the user ID. A couple of setting things that I don't really do a whole lot with those, so I'm not going to explain too much about those. Same with the extensions, and yeah, don't really do a whole lot with the mounts either. This I will say this caching allows my pip libraries. If I do a pip install inside of the container, it'll live not in the container still, so I don't have to redo those downloads every single time. And then if we look at the run args, you'll see we have the .env file pointed to here. So this is saying if we put things in the .env file, like we could say example one equals testing 1, 2, 3. So now once we actually build this dev container, we should be able to see that environment variable, and we'll check that for sure. The other thing, I'm passing through the GPUs, so this means that my dev container will have access to these GPUs, which is very important for stable diffusion to have access to the GPU. The last thing is we're doing a post create command. So once the dev container is created, what do we want to happen? And in this case, we want it to run a Jupyter Notebook instance. So all of this is going to happen. The last thing I'm going to explain, or one of the last things before I actually show you how to build this thing, is what is in the Docker file. So this is really what the environment's made of. This is definitely the core of what's happening. So we're using the NVIDIA CUDA base. I create a new user here. So this group add is where I'm actually creating a new user with the ID of 1000, group ID of 1000, and the username is currently Kevin. Some of my newer stuff I based on Sparrow ML's recommendation, I've started using Dev instead of Kevin, which I like that a lot better. So I'll be sticking with that from now on, is changing this to Dev. I don't want to do that right now because I might have that pointed to in other places. So just going to leave it as it is for now. The other thing I'm doing is installing some helpful packages. And then down here, I'm copying the requirements.txt file and doing a pip install requirements.txt, and then I'm adding the current directory into the Docker container, or the Docker container. So that's pretty much it. I don't really do anything directly with this, but I don't really do anything directly with this, so this doesn't really do anything that I'm aware of, at least. So, all right, so we've got a Docker file. Here's what the requirements.txt looks like. So I've just got all of the libraries. Basically, all of this, or most of this at least, came from running through this multiple times and then looking at the Jupyter notebook here and noticing the pip install. So diffuser, transformer, fast core. Those are the first three things. And then everything past that point was really just things that showed up as I was processing through this. All right, so we've got a dev container. It's all defined. How do we actually use it? So if you have VS Code, you'll do Shift Control P, and you should see dev containers options. If they aren't at the top, you can search for it here. And I'm going to do rebuild and reopen in container. I'm going to do it with cache because that's going to be faster. I haven't seen a whole lot of times where I need to do without cache, but I will use it for debugging every once in a while. Typically, I can use the cache version. So now, you'll see we've got the starting dev containers over here. So if we click on that, it's going to start building everything, and it should be really quick because I've built this before. And so you can imagine this is really just like you could send this to a friend and say, hey, what do you think of this stable diffusion stuff? And they would be able to run that same command, Control Shift P, rebuild container, and it would get them to this exact same spot. So then you can copy the URL with the token, and let's try to run that. I'm gonna close out of everything else because these are all old. So if we paste that in, we get to a Jupyter Notebook session. So this is, if we click into one of these, you'll be able to see it opens it up, and it says it's not trusted. So let's go ahead and change that. We're gonna do trust, and then we're good to go. We can run through this. Let's put our token in here, copy this, paste here, and then can run through the rest of this. And the other thing that I want to point out as I'm going through here is this enable attention slicing. So the GPU I'm working with here is a 3050M, which is it only has 4 gigs of RAM, so it's very small. And I'm able to run Stable Diffusion on it using this enable attention slicing. I got this from the Fastai forum. So let's go through, and once this is, just takes a minute for this to actually load up. Okay, it's done. So now we can do whatever prompts we want. I'm just going to do Nebraska Van Gogh, and let's run through this. And this is going to take a little bit longer than it typically would, because I'm doing the recording and using some of the resources on this machine as well. And this is a locally running process. So as soon as I stop the recording, this takes about 20 seconds to run. While I'm recording, it takes a lot longer. So that's, I think, pretty much all I wanted to show. I guess the other thing we had talked about, I guess a couple things that I'll point out. So we've got the dev container. So this was the container name. So you can see it down here. And I had created an environment variable. Let's see if we can actually see that. So I forget already what the name was. It was like example example 1. Echo example 1. Yeah. So there's the connection there. So if I want, I could have secrets in here. This would definitely be something you would not commit. You wouldn't commit the .env directly. Um, Sparrow uses a .env.template. So I think is a good idea for just showing a user what environment variables you would expect them to provide. But it's a pretty neat idea. You can pass through quite a few things. The I did have this pip extra index URL as a .env. I ended up actually pulling that back into the Docker file itself because I needed access to it the before the .dev container was actually created. So that's just one thing to be mindful of if you want to actually be able to process it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Um, and like I said before, if you work for a manufacturing company that wants to improve speed and quality, please reach out at problemsolversguild.com. Thanks.